This is Spooky Coop, Episode 20, The Lovers and the Zodiac Killer. This week's episode chronicles the violent murder of two young lovers along the coast of California.
The aftermath of these unsolved murders end in a series of paranormal encounters that leave witnesses baffled by the memory of something they can never forget.
Hi everyone, I'm Paul.
And I'm Michelle.
And you're in
The
Spooky Coop.
Welcome to the Spooky Coop. Hope you're not chicken.
Michelle.
Hey, I'm back.
You're back after a long sojourn, a battle with pavement and head.
Yeah, I had a really bad head injury.
A concussion the size of Mount Etna.
Yeah, and a brain bleed. But hey.
And a husband's complete loss of hair in a short space of time.
Yeah, but at least I know I have a brain. Well, I knew I had one, but now it's iffy.
Here it is. I found it. Look at this.
Well, I don't know. I hope somebody missed me. So today I'm back, and we're going to start doing our chit-chat back in the old coop again.
Yes.
And we have a new segment. We're going to, not a segment per se, but we'd like to open our email box to submissions, more submissions, to people sending in their experiences and stories and anything they'd like to.
Yes, if you have a submission, you can send it to spookycoop@gmail.com. How's that for an original moniker?
Yeah, send it to
spookycoop@gmail.com. And we'll have that in the comments section for you to have a look at if you need to find it later on. We look forward to hearing from you all. We get some great stories. We never use your real name if you don't want, and we disguise things so that people can't get into any type of trouble legally.
Yeah, and if you are worried about anything about your writing or anything, we will rewrite the story for you. If you sometimes people will say, "Oh, this is what happened," but and we'll just say, "Okay," and we'll send it back to you, see what you think. And oops, I'm already dropping things. How do you like that? Another thing is we're working on...
If they could see the state of the studio right now, they'd pass out.
The other thing is maybe they will soon, because we're getting together a YouTube podcast. And
yes, you can find us on YouTube. You can find us on X, formerly Twitter. We prefer Twitter.
Yeah. And we may even not be on X if it ends up being crazy someday.
You never know. Any day you could say the wrong thing and poof, gone out the door. So anyway, today's story is a great story. It's about two lovers who were murdered on the coast of California. That's not so great, but it is the baseline of the story. It's what happens afterwards that's really amazing. The manifestation of ghosts and phantasms near where the couple were murdered. And this story ultimately relates to the Zodiac killer. And there's many theories regarding the identity of the Zodiac, but the only suspect that they ever had really was Arthur Lee Allen, who was a former elementary school teacher.
Have you heard that new Netflix series, The Zodiac Speaks, with all those kids that grew up with him, and he was like a dad to them. Yes. They went to school with him, and now they're older, and they're like they're not even sure themselves, but they're starting to think, holy crap, they're all like our age or
Everything
older
started
now.
to fit in, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, they had no idea when they were younger. It wasn't until they were older they started to connect the dots.
Yeah, and this story was told to us by somebody who watched that series and then started going, oh crap, this is a legend we grew up with. And this is something that my sister told me, and now I'm telling it to you. So that's where this story came from that you're about to hear. It's sort of a legend type story, so.
Yeah. So, why don't we get on with the show?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
In September of 1966, the night was thick with fog as Sam and Lily parked their car on the lonely cliff near Ragged Point, off the Cabrillo Highway in California. As they looked out over the ocean far below them, they leaned into each other, wrapped in the warmth of their embrace. The silent beauty of the sea stretched beneath them. Unbeknownst to them, a shadowed figure lurked nearby, watching, waiting. Suddenly, the driver's side door was wrenched open. Before Sam could react, a sharp blade sank into his chest. Lily screamed, helpless, as Sam fell lifeless onto the ground. The killer's face was unreadable in the dim light. He turned toward her. She fought him as he grabbed her. She struggled with every ounce of strength, but the intruder was too strong and pulled her over Sam's dead body and out of the car. As they fought, her hand found the hilt of the knife still lodged in Sam's chest. Lily managed to wrench it free, swinging it wildly. The killer grappled with her for the blade until finally it pierced her chest. She gasped, her eyes wide with shock as the life began to drain from her. Just then, headlights broke through the darkness and the murderer froze. With her last ounce of strength, Lily shoved him backward. The evil man stumbled over the cliff's edge, a look of horror flashing across his face, before he disappeared into the dark depths below. The headlights grew brighter as the car approaching pulled up to a tragic scene. The couple in the car later told police they were in shock, and despite their efforts to help Lily, she died right there on the cliff's edge. They had seen her struggling with a tall male figure she was somehow able to push away and over the edge of the cliff. The next morning, a search was done of the beach below. Despite the rocky fall the murderer had taken, his body was never found. Days passed, and people began to speak of strange happenings. Drivers late at night would glimpse a car at the cliff's edge, with two shadowy figures entwined in a final embrace, briefly illuminated in the mist. But as they approached, the car would vanish, leaving nothing but the mournful sound of waves crashing against the rocks below. A year later, Fred Lockwood, a utility worker, reported pulling over late at night, unaware it was the same area where a brutal homicide had occurred 12 months ago. He sat in his truck, eating his sandwich and drinking coffee, while looking out over the ocean and the stars glistening above the horizon. As he enjoyed his break, he suddenly felt something he described as a sensation of the shivers or the creeps to his left. He looked over and noticed there was a car parked a short distance away he hadn't noticed when he first pulled up. He thought it was odd, since he didn't hear the vehicle's engine approaching either. Inside the car, he could make out a couple holding one another in a romantic embrace. Fred turned his head to pour some more coffee from his thermos, then turned back to look out over the cliffside. An odd mist had suddenly risen from the ocean below, obscuring his view. He looked to his left and saw the car and its occupants had vanished. Only a few seconds had passed. He looked behind and saw nothing. When he looked back over the ocean, the mist had cleared. Fred shrugged it off, yet he still felt a strange discomfort and decided to end his evening break early and get back to work. Another strange sighting was reported several months after the murder by Mary and Susan Clamber of King City, California. The two elderly sisters enjoyed star watching in the late evening. They set up their portable telescope a short way from the roadway in their special place near the cliffs. They opened their folding chairs and pulled out some stargazing notes to enjoy the cosmos. Their evening was uneventful at first, although they always found excitement in being able to view the rings of Saturn through their telescope. That was until the temperature suddenly dropped to a noticeable, bone-chilling cold that went right through their bodies. They both looked at one another with consternation, until Mary noticed Susan's eyes widen as she seemed to stare past her. Susan slowly raised her right hand as though to point at the open ocean behind Mary. Seeing this, Mary turned around quickly, fear gripping her. Based on her sister's wide, terrified eyes, surely, she thought, there must be imminent danger. What her gaze fell upon made no sense. Hovering, as though parked, was a car suspended in the air over the ocean in front of them. They could see a young couple sitting, looking away from them, out over the ocean. The young woman moved into the man's arms as they cuddled together. The sisters said the apparition seemed to last about 20 to 30 seconds, until it slowly faded away. As it did, the evening air warmed. It was as though nothing had happened at all. Both told friends and family members of the event. But after being laughed at and treated with what they called pedestrian patronization, decided to keep it to themselves until the next sighting revived interest in the unsolved murder of the young couple, Lily and Sam. On October 15th, 1970, Josh Holt and Melinda Perez of San Lucas, California, were out for an afternoon ride on Josh's motorcycle. They decided to ride over to the coast and along Route 1. Around sunset, they pulled over at Ragged Point and rode along the short trail to the cliffs, where they stopped to look at the view. Melinda pulled out some water from her backpack for both Josh and herself. The sun was just dipping below the horizon, and the sunset was stunningly beautiful. They stood and talked while stretching their legs, preparing for the remainder of the ride home, and enjoying a truly beautiful California evening. As the dusk arrived, Melinda felt a chill go through her. She looked at Josh, noticing his body shivering as well. It was strange, as the evening was not that cold. They both noticed an odd fog rising in front of them from beyond the cliff above the ocean. It was a bit confusing at first, but their confusion quickly turned to disbelief, then shock, and then fear. In the mist in front of them began to appear a young couple, seemingly hovering, suspended in the mist over the ocean, about 30 feet in front of them. At first, Josh thought it might be some type of mirage. Melinda reported feeling like her brain short-circuited and was unable to process or react to what she was seeing. Both said they were suddenly very cold and felt a fear like they had never felt before, a bone-chilling, penetrating terror. As they stood and watched, the young woman in the mist began to change her expression. As though in slow motion, the ghostly girl began to open her eyes and mouth wide. Her whole face expressed what appeared to be a person screaming in terror. The young man next to her slowly opened his eyes wide, as if he was alarmed and terrified, and raised his arm to point at something behind Melinda and Josh. The both turned cautiously around to see that not far away was a tall, dark figure, dressed in black, and what appeared to be a black ski mask over his head. He was walking quickly and purposefully toward them. Melinda grabbed her backpack, and Josh yelled at her to get on the motorcycle. He furiously tried several times to start the bike, until it finally fired up, and he took off with Melinda holding him tightly around the waist. He aimed straight up the trail at the figure. He had to. It was the only way out, back to the highway. As he approached the menacing figure, he saw the masked stranger was carrying a bag which he dropped. Shining metal knives, plastic zip ties, and other things that Josh was moving too fast to make out fell loose from the bag and onto the ground. The man in the mask made a mad jump to pull Josh from the bike, but Josh was able to dodge, then ducked. averting the figure's arms. Then he accelerated, throwing up dirt and gravel into the would-be killer's face, and made their escape onto the highway and back home as quickly as possible. The two reported the incident, but no evidence was found at the scene, and thus no further investigation was conducted. The police told Josh and Melinda they would schedule more frequent checks of the point, but it was highly unlikely the culprit would return anytime soon. Both Melinda and Josh felt the police were just blowing them off. Later, after reading reports in the paper about other murders in the area, they realized how close they came to a terrible end. They were more than a little grateful for the phantasms that warned them, for in time, they were sure if they didn't listen and turn around, they would be just another set of victims of the Zodiac killer. To this day, some say the spirits of Sam and Lily still wait on the cliff, together even in death, haunting the place where love and horror intertwined. All who have seen them will never forget them or their great love. So, Michelle, what do you think of that story?
I don't know. That's some creepy legend. If anyone out there, anyone that's listening to us, anyone who heard this, if they've actually encountered something like this, it'd be really cool if they sent something to us or told us about it. That would be really cool. If anyone has had a brush with the Zodiac killer in some way, if they, that would be awesome if they got to us.
Yeah, what really interests me around this paranormal aspect of the whole story was not just that people would see things, but that they interacted. That there was some interaction, particularly in the last little story or episodic bit of the story, where they're actually warned that something is coming near behind them. Sometimes, most times, like you and I know, people will see some type of a spirit manifestation. It'll fade, or it'll be not so clear. For some people, it can be very clear, but not too often do they really interact so clearly like that.
Right, and this one, it was like they knew that the killer was coming, and they were like, "Get out!" And it gave them enough clues to turn around and tell them to get away. And you wonder, because it almost did the same thing with the older women, if there was some danger around them, or if there was something strange around them. Maybe even this killer was lurking, but decided for some reason that this was not. Maybe it was not the type of couple he thought they were.
Oh, you never can tell with these guys. You know what they say about serial killers? Everybody needs a hobby, right?
Oh,
so he might have just been sitting out there for whatever reason for goodness knows how long.
Yeah, you never know. So do you think that, what is his name?
Arthur
Allen is the Zodiac, or was the Zodiac killer?
After watching that series, I really do. I think that they put a lot of, it's not an absolute, because they don't have a lot of physical evidence that was eventually used to actually charge him and convict him. But there was so much circumstantial evidence. And now that the family that he lived with, the children, came forward with their stories, and they mixed it in with the known timeline of the Zodiac killer, it is, like, for me personally, way up in the high 90 percentile that he was the guy.
Yeah, you see the look on their faces when they were talking. They realized that they had him when he was committing
the murders, which is phenomenal. That anybody could be
creepy.
like that is remarkable.
Mm-hmm. Well, just to remind people again, we have a place where they can send their stories. They want to submit a story.
Send it to spookycoop@gmail.com.
Right, and that is send it to spookycoop. Not, hey guys, send it to Spooky Coop. It's actually send it to Spooky Coop. So send it to Spooky Coop.
A great qualifier, SENDITTO, Spooky Coop.
That's right.
gmail.com.
Yeah, and
this wasn't supposed to be so convoluted. We thought it would be direct, but I think you found a hole in our theory here.
And if you know anything about this, if you know about anything more about the legend, let us know. And I guess we'll see you
next time. And before we say goodbye, as always, we wish you a week of hope and wonder. Until next time, when we see you in the spooky coop.